Today on Borrowed Horsepower, we have the Foxbody pushed out of the shop. I gave it a bath, cleaned it up. I'm going to show you all the stuff I've done. I've done a battery relocation, starter relay delete, and just go over everything that was done previously. So let's see where the car's at now, and let's get into it. We're going to start off with some of the wiring. Usually these cars have a big bulky starter relay mounted on the driver's side fender, but I've switched to a SN95 5.0 style mini starter that has a starter relay built in. So I was actually able to do a wire tuck, connect everything to this post, and then I have it ran all the way across there. You can see it tucked up underneath the lip to a distribution block. And I even have the ignition wire that comes off the key. And then the other wire out of that goes all the way back to where I have the battery mounted in the hatch. We'll get to that later on. But we can also see here I've done a proportioning valve delete. I have the adjustable forward racing one in line for the rears, since the rears are disc brake, spider webs, a T, because I tried to have a line lock but it did nothing but leak, so that's besides the point. We can see where I, last video, or 2 videos ago, where I did the strut tower rust repair. Didn't turn out too bad, I don't think. And the new shiny rack, manual steering, so I had to take a factory steering shaft and I measured it and I cut it down. You might have to do some like test fitment and measuring. I had to hold it up there and such. And then I was able to buy a, what was it, a 9 9/16 and 26 spline, I want to say, and then a 3/4 round end. I was able to make my own rag joint delete on that factory steering column rack attachment piece. Steering shaft is what I'm looking for. So I got that made at home. And then the other big thing is this new return style Holley fuel pressure regulator with a vacuum, a boost reference, vacuum reference. So in the future, when I switch it over to turbo, I'll be able to hook my boost line up there, or a vacuum line up there, and control. It'll be able to add pressure for the boost. And then it is return style -6 there and back. And I have a feed that this isn't the feed, but it'll be something of the sort, and it'll go to the carburetor log, and that'll provide plenty of fuel from the Holley blue pump while it's still NA. When I go turbo, I plan on putting a in-tank pump, probably like a Hellcat pump, just something overkill, but that way I have it. I might even go up to 8 AN lines. I'm not sure on the power limit there, but that's something for the future. Now that we're getting inside the car, you're going to see some goodies from the next video, because I'm working on these kind of jumbled up. It's a little dirty, I need to clean it up. But I have the gang switch, as it's called on Amazon, gang switch, mounted. Here is my fuel pump, and then MSD ignition. Both will run off that. And the good thing about this one is I can leave these clicked on and then just turn it off. So as soon as I push the one button, everything I needed will be pushed. And then I have a MSD 2-step I'm going to wire in to power with this. So I'll be able to push a button, it'll give it power, and then I will have a button on the shifter, and that will give it ground. So that way I'll be able to push it on, roll through, no problem, rev it freely, do a burnout, all that. And then when I hold the button on top of the shifter, it'll ground it and it'll trigger the 2-step. So that way the 2-step will be kind of like a 2-button to make sure it's on. So that way I don't accidentally leave it on, or I don't accidentally not arm it. So it'll have like a backup safety built in. So I think that'll be handy. I like that idea. Don't know if it's common practice or not, but it sounds good in my head, so I'm gonna give it a shot. Now you come over to the passenger side. You can see I'm going to mount the MSD 6AL underneath the passenger seat. I need to get some straps and build a nice bracket for it, but I just haven't got to that point yet. But I've got it all wired up. It comes on with the key, and then I can push a button on the solid state relay switch, and it'll give it power. The light comes on. I've got these 2 wires ran under the carpet kind of crudely. but everything runs up over in, that's the wideband gauge, nothing. But the power wire and everything runs through here, and you can't tell. I've got the carpet cleaned up the best you can for the 80s. Got fresh seat belts installed, so I'll actually be safe in this thing. So now if we get back here under the hatch, you can see not much is going on here. Yeah, you can see I got a big stain. I need to replace this carpet, but just ignore that. It just looks like a regular box, maybe a toolbox, some extra parts, but anyone that knows, it is, oh, one-handed tough, my battery box. I got my post in here, wires ran. It'll be a go on and then have the single post, so that way everything's connected to the battery nice and neat. And I ran the cables up through here, you'll see when I pop this panel off, and then down to the bottom of the car I have the vent where everything's ran in here. That I got my trim panel off. It did a pretty good job hiding it. I have a push-pull style battery disconnect. It actually goes through here and then it screws on. Kind of sticks out a lot right now. I need to cut it down and bring it flush in. The goal would be to have it something like that, so it's not too obvious, too gaudy, and I'll still be able to unscrew it. And it goes from the battery over there to the one side of the battery shut-off switch, and then from the other side it feeds up front to the front of the car where I have the starter relay deleted and that distribution block. It feeds all the way up there, and it also feeds my relay panel, which controls the gang switch. And then so I have a second relay built in for the fuel pump, because I didn't quite trust the Amazon switch and relay so much, so I threw in a second one. And I also have the ground running from the battery to the chassis, which I personally had a hard time finding a chassis ground and finding where anyone online said they put it. So if you go, I did mine on the passenger side, since that's where the battery already was, or where I like the battery placement to offset the driver weight. If you go down through the back and then right next to the tire, you have your quad shock where it bolts on the bracket where the quad shock bolts to. You can actually unbolt that, and it has a nut already into the frame from factory, so that'll give you a good frame ground and a good chassis ground, so that way you can do it that way, battery to that and everything. And then I'm also going to do another ground from the battery to the frame up front in the engine bay, so that way everything's good, everything's grounded, and everything should work. As it sits, I can put a battery in it or jumper cables and have full power to accessories, to the lights. Nothing doesn't work as it sits. It doesn't have an engine, so I'm still iffy on that, but it should work no problem. Doesn't seem to pull too much power or have a big draw, so I'm very happy about that. That's really about it. That's like everything I've done to the car over the past couple weeks, couple months. The wiring, trying to figure it all out, has taken me quite a bit of time trying to do it neat. It's not perfect, but it's probably some of the best I've done, and I'm pretty happy with it. So it's good for who it's for, and I'm gonna get it right.